Welcome into another edition of the Talkin Solutions with the Chesh, a podcast. In this episode, we're talking about fitness and exercise and community. In this theme, I have with me the CEO and the founder of MotivateU, Ms. Jennifer Strout. And Jennifer, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for asking. And Jennifer, I've kind of seen you around for a while, and the Twitter atmosphere is kind of where I was made aware of you back before you've blown up a little bit on your followers and that nature as well. And your platform always kind of interested me even before I started this podcast. It's centered around fitness and community, which I think is really important. So Jennifer, if you could just tell us a little bit about your solution and why it's going to be able to be positive towards society.
Sure. So basically, the solution came out of my own experiences in trying to get back to the gym after having children. And between the drive, the childcare, coordinating all of that, the amount of time that it takes to get to the gym, it kind of removes from me all the positive aspects of being in the class. But I do really like and have always enjoyed being with other people when I'm trying to reach a goal, because there's something very motivating about having other people help hold you accountable. And so after I went through that experience of I actually did go to a gym. I went to a class. My kids were miserable though, and I ended up in turn being miserable. After I came home from that first attempt of trying to go back to the gym after having my second son, I figured there's got to be something else better out there that maybe I could use from home. And so I searched and searched, and I found that it was very similar to what it had been like in the 90s, where I would put my grandpa's Taibo videos in the VHS and work out from home. I could stream videos on YouTube, but I wasn't able to get that feedback. And so that's when I decided there has to be a better way. How can we combine the best of the in-person classes and the convenience and the data from like some of the stuff from working out from home? Because now we have AI fitness that also allows the data, but it still is absent of that in-person feeling where you get the feedback from a live human. So our platform combines both of those. So you get to work out with a trainer from your local gym or fitness center. If you relocate and you want to still connect your old gym, you're welcome to do that. And it allows you to get the same amount of data and feedback from some of the AI fitness. So if you're doing a particular exercise, the system will tell you in real time whether or not you're doing it correctly.
Which is really, really cool. Really, really cool. The real-time data. I tried it out. We're definitely going to have videos. You can check them out. It'll be on our social media platforms for those that want a visual representation. You can also just go to MotivateU and see them there. Jennifer, you talked about the community and you talked about the data feedback, because there's a lot you can really pick out here that what you're doing is providing a great solution. For me, obviously, exercise and working out is fantastic to encourage, because it's pretty much all healthy for you. I guess maybe you could argue if you run too much on concrete, it's not great for your knees. But other than that, like, the long-term benefit of working out is really helpful. And I think the community aspect is getting lost, particularly accelerated with the COVID pandemic and things of that nature as well. So you're bringing in both. So tell us a little bit about why that community part is so important to you and part of the MotivateU platform.
So I have my master's in counseling, and I worked in emergency departments for about 7 years. And the mental health aspect of being connected to other individuals is so huge that it actually affects our physical health. So the longest predictor of longevity past 100 years of age is actually interpersonal connections. So it's more highly correlated with longevity than even exercise itself. But obviously we can combine both of those. Right. So if you're isolated from others, it just really can exacerbate a lot of physical conditions as well, and including like how the immune system reacts. And so that's why it's really important to have an actual community, though, not necessarily just one that's virtual. And so being able to know that these are people that are part of your gym or a local gym, or you could potentially get coffee with if you wanted to, I think is really important, as opposed to connecting into a big group of people that you may or may not ever interact with or meet. There's definitely benefits to online communities, but pure online communities lack something when we continue to get isolated. On the other hand, with things like the pandemic, we need to be able to move in and out of in-person interactions. And that's why this platform also allows for like hybrid models. So you can use in-person, still grab your data and continue to use it from there. Go into the classes when you want to, do them from home when you can't. So that being able to move in and out. But we also have some community features built into our consumer app where you can connect with people you know and help to encourage each other. But one thing that we do that's different is we measure you against your own starting point as opposed to like a hard number. So if you're trying to reach 10,000 steps, but you're starting at 8,000, and I'm trying to reach 10,000 steps and I'm starting at 5,000, I have to double my steps, whereas you're just going to get like 25% more. So in that case, if I'm going 100% more, but you're going 25% more, you're more likely to get to your goal before mine, right? And so that could be very discouraging for somebody who's starting further back. But we should be measuring people by the amount of progress they're making towards their goal, not necessarily the end goal. Everybody's body type is different too. So we don't want to discourage people in that regard. So we allow people to get involved with leaderboards and competitions, but it's all based on the percentage towards your goal, not a hard number.
I love that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I remember I did, what was that workout called? Oh, Insanity, years ago. And yeah, you track down your progress to start, and then you kind of work towards your goals every 2 weeks. And to have that kind of just set on your own versus using a fixed number of what you should is really helpful. Jennifer, can you just give us, I guess, a verbal walkthrough of how the application works, kind of how working out via AI and utilizing data and kind of having that instructor on the other side and how that kind of works? Because I think for some people still that type of exercise and working out might be unfamiliar, but it could be the solution that really helps them. Like you said, maybe there are some moms out there or dads out there that are trying to balance work and the kids and they want to hit the gym like you said, but maybe they don't have quite the time, or they don't want to deal with the crying children and all that type of stuff. So can you just explain, like from a verbal standpoint, how the software works and the type of experience you can have?
Sure. And pre-pandemic too, I was thinking about all my friends that travel for business a lot. So if you're a consumer, you just hop on the plane, put your phone in your pocket, get to your hotel room, take your phone out, you open the app, the teacher or trainer will have already put the class on, and then you just enter the class. When you enter the class, you just look at the trainer, what they're doing, and follow the movements. And then as the trainee, you'll see a colored light at the bottom. So you have a bar that's either green, orange, or red. Green means you're doing well. Orange means that you're kind of in that neutral zone, and red means that you're a little bit off with exercise and you may need a correction. So depending on how big the class is for the trainer, and how many people are popping up red, the trainer may actually give you instruction in real time, just as if you were in a class when the trainer comes around or looks in the mirror and says, you might want to turn your foot a little bit to the right, or you could tweak your hip there, or your knee is too far over your foot, you could cause injury. Usually the trainer's kind of always keeping an eye on everybody, and this helps them to zoom in, which I'll talk about in a second. But so from the trainee side, you just continue to do the exercises. Usually, especially if it's a new class, it's hard to say fix it in real time. So at the end of the class, you can look at your graph of how you did during that whole class and see where you need the most improvement. But if it's a class you've been going to for a while and maybe the trainer does pretty much the same routine, if you see yourself hitting red, then you know, oh, hold on, let me see, what is it that I'm doing wrong? You can adjust yourself at that point too. From the trainer side, the trainer sets up the class, adds the students that are going to be there. If it's a reoccurring class, then they can make it so it pops up in the calendar each time. And then they just launch the class when it's ready to start. And then instead of having a bar around the square or the rectangle, depending on how many people are fitting on the screen, of the trainer will be the color light, the same green, orange, or red. And then the person who needs the most feedback at that time pops up as the only screen for the trainer. So the trainer can focus on giving feedback to one specific person and at that moment if they are able to or want to give feedback at that time. If not, then afterwards, again, the trainer can see every individual client's graphs and then give feedback because there's a messaging system too for the trainers to provide feedback.
Very cool. And I have used it. I have personally tried it out. It does work really well, and it is kind of cool to see that graph to where you're hitting, where you're not hitting. In my case, anything that involved trying to touch my toes was not great. Um, but and again, we highly encourage you to go to motivateu.net to get a visual representation of that. Or like I said, on our social media platforms, we'll be promoting and providing a video of that for you as well on that front. So Jennifer, what types of exercises, what types of workouts, what types of things is this for? Is it a wide range? Is this great for yoga? Is this great for some kind of, lightweight workouts, plyometrics? What types of stuff, workouts and exercises can people kind of look for and see on these? Or is it dependent on the trainer?
Yeah, so the trainer can run any type of classes. The reason I usually demo yoga classes is because when I went back to school after working at the hospital, I went back for a biochem degree, and then I was a personal trainer and a yoga instructor at the same time. So for me, that's what I'm familiar with the most, and that's what I feel like the most people can kind of jump in on for demo purposes. Even if you're maybe not in great shape, it's not super fast like some of the aerobics. But also, if you think about injuries and people being prone to injuries and doing things remotely, or if somebody's older or has maybe had an injury or surgery or just given birth, they want to be a little more careful. And so being able to monitor to make sure people aren't doing things that injure themselves, or if you're watching your own colors and you see yourself go red, you might want to maybe take a time out if you realize I don't know how to do this exercise correctly, or I need to work on this, or talk to the trainer more after, or ask for a modification. That can kind of help. But yeah, I prefer to demo yoga because I think it kind of meets everybody where they're at, and there are different ways to approach it, but it's up to the gym, whatever classes that they choose to run or have available, they can run those here.
Lots of flexibility. Love it. So we've kind of talked about the consumer. We did a little bit about the trainer. So and obviously the data, this is going to be helpful, but how does this empower, personal trainers and fitness instructors out there, especially as they have had to learn to adapt to bring their platform and bring their business online because, they just didn't have access to the gyms. And I'm sure for some of them that could be a hybrid approach in the future. So how does this kind of empower them and help them?
Yeah. So unfortunately, the gyms have not been given much options with technology in terms of what was out there before the pandemic hit, and pretty much not too much has come along since. But so what trainers have been doing is just streaming the videos. And the problem with that is that they can't see the trainees or the clients when they're running them, and can't get feedback. If they're deciding to not stream them using a service, but they're using Zoom, then they're trying to look at 30 tiles at once, or whatever size the class is. And I've had trainers say they just sit down and look at one tile at a time. By the time you're on the second tile, you already can no longer see the first one, because you can only really see one person if you're trying to correct them, but then you also can't demonstrate. So how do you get new clients if you're only relying on people who already know the exercises? So our program allows it, again, to alert you to who you need to focus on at that time, so that you're not having to try to figure out who to see, or just move on and hope the first, second, third, fourth person are doing fine by the time you get to the fifth, sixth person. The data also then is able to be collected at the end. So if you think of for admins or owners of gyms or franchises, there can be a lot of turnover with trainers, and trainers are often evaluating people from a subjective experience. So we use the same technology to run the classes that we use to evaluate where somebody's at when they're starting. So we do the initial assessment, reassessments. So if you switch over to another trainer, then that data is still going to be the same. So it's going to have the same baseline. And then from the owner's point of view too, they could see, is it a particular trainer that's doing really well, or do they maybe score themselves subjectively better when they're doing their reassessments for their clients? Or is it maybe the classes that they're teaching, or the type of clients that are joining those classes? So we run data insights on all of the different trends and let the admins and owners know if we see any trends within the data as well.
Very interesting. So lots to kind of take apart and benefit from if you're a fitness instructor or trainer, and then a gym that even employs those types of trainers and things of that nature as well. Jennifer, you talked a little bit about this, and your background was around this as well, as kind of the mental health, the relationships. I think that's fascinating. That the relationships in the community you build is linked to a longer life, which is obviously makes a lot of sense, right? We're social creatures. So I'm curious as well as when you were kind of creating this platform and whatnot, how much did the mental health benefits and how much did that type of psyche and the importance of that kind of go into your creation of this platform?
Yeah, so I've always loved technology. My grandfather used to work for Apple. So I got my first computer when I was 4. And I've always been fascinated and enjoyed it, but I've also seen that it can be used negatively. And so I thought there's so many algorithms out there that have people reinforcing negative habits. Why can't we use what we know about psychology to help people reinforce positive habits? So even from the aspect of like the motivational psychology and habit building, that's built into the way the platform works and how it engages with people to keep moving forward, but also to get them past that initial hurdle of getting started. And then in the community aspect is how many touch points can we have for encouraging each other? So we have this system too where you could give out high fives to each other, like I saw you, I saw you in the class today. So you just give the person a high five, or they did a good job, or they weren't there for a while, now they came back. It doesn't matter. Just it's kind of like again, I saw you. If I was at the gym, I might give a high five before the pandemic to people I know, and now you can't necessarily in most places, but or shouldn't, I should say. But unfortunately, that may or may not go on for a while. But I think that's like a universal sign of like, I see you. You're doing a good job. Congratulations. And so we wanted a way for people to be able to push that positivity, and actually you can earn rewards within the system for unlocking like the paid versions of the app, and also for earning swag as well, t-shirts and stuff, water bottles, yoga mats. But yeah, so we want people to interact with each other, and that I think also will encourage them to do so by the fact that you can get rewards, and you're helping reward other people within the community. And then again, the leaderboards and the community boards, and seeing who else is trying to reach a particular goal. You can set those on or off. So a lot of women we've talked to don't really want to necessarily be seen at the gym, or that part can be very uncomfortable for them. And so if they don't want to be seen during the classes by other people in the class, they can turn that off. If they don't want their goals to be seen by other people, you can turn that off. You can maybe just have your friends, or you can have your gym, or you can have it open to a bigger community. And all of those privacy settings come at each stage. So we don't have this big, like, it's open or closed. Each of the individual steps or processes that you can get involved with have their own privacy setting, so that you can really personalize it from the beginning and meet your comfort level. And also with people who have anxiety, it might be hard for them to first be seen, but as they realize they're doing a good job, they can open it up to more people as well. So it also helps with, kind of getting to the point where maybe you're getting back into the gym. I think one thing that's can be really hard post-pandemic is for people who have been removed from the community, who already had some anxiety interacting. It's going to be really hard to get back into it. And so this can allow for first kind of being completely private, then getting more open within the virtual community, and then eventually knowing that that gym exists, that you can step back into it if and when you're ready to. So there's lots of like meeting people where they're at and kind of growing with individuals.
That's fantastic. I think that's my favorite part of your platform. It's just the fact that it's so community centric and organized and based. Obviously, getting back data and how well you're working out is super important, right? I mean, it's part of the challenge of exercise. It's part of the challenge of self-improvement as well. But sometimes the hardest part for some people, because I find exercise is really an interesting topic. For some people, they got to go every day. They're obsessed. They can't go without it, right? They don't need anything to motivation or anything like that. For other people, they love the idea, they love the working out process, but getting the motivation to go do it, getting the like you said, there's anxiety around it, and the mental health and the confidence to go out and do it can be difficult, and your platform really focuses on that community centric kind of organization as well, and things of that nature. So in your experience, just within your profession, and then, you know, just your life experience as well, where did you see that, and how did that kind of help you balance the two platforms of like, okay, here's the data and the exercise, and then obviously we talked about how much input you put in the community health, but, you know, when you look at the spectrum of people that exercise and can use this platform, you know, where do you kind of see that kind of trending? Is it down with more of the people that need, obviously, Motivate You would sound it, but to me, it also sounds like people that use and exercise regularly can use it as well.
Right. Yeah. So the reason I really wanted to pull that in is because I feel like there is a lot of exclusion across all types of products in our society. There's this idea of like, well, suck it up or like you lose, like you know, like get with the program or we'll leave you behind. And so if you look at the trends, I'll just talk about the United States in particular, with obesity rates and with poor diet and exercise. The gap is getting like wider and wider, right? So we're just more and more people are getting left behind. And then we say, oh, well, it's their fault. There's options out there. They should probably go ahead and do them. But are those options for that person? No, it's like you already have to be at a certain level. And then if you do try to engage with those platforms, you're made to feel bad because you're not even ranking on the board when, again, you may have made more progress, but all these other people are starting way above you. And so you can't even ever get any traction. So my first thought was, how can we make it so that it's accessible to everybody? And then that means including everybody in different parts of the community, no matter where you're at. And yes, because you can change the settings and because the goals are based on your own starting point and ending point, you can also be somebody who's working out all the time and still benefit from it because you can ramp it up. For the trainers too, they have settings that, depending on if it's an easy, moderate, or advanced class, where the colored lights will actually be indicating at different times. So we actually put more of an advanced setting on the class that you were running. So everybody cut him a break. If you look at his colors, he was doing a pretty hard setting. But so that means that, the people can set it for where they are and then continue to grow from there. But I think the most important thing is making sure that we don't have this false sense of openness and acceptance and accessibility, when in reality, it's really just, you know, this safe with a locked door and a combination. And so, yeah, there's a door, but if you don't know how to get in, and then good luck. It shouldn't be that way. It should be an open door, and then everybody can make their path from there.
100% agree. It's all about how it works for that individual, that specific individual. With the community aspect, I want to ask you a little more, I guess, nitty-gritty details more about the business and how that type of stuff is going as well. But before we kind of get into that, what are your future goals? What are the end goals? What are the plans for Motivate You? Is it to develop this into a much bigger community-based fitness software, like groups and Facebook and online groups and support groups, local meetups for the people in the community as well? Or what's the long term? What's the dream of Motivate You?
So we have a community forum through a Slack channel that you could connect to through the app already. So that's definitely something that we want. We want people to be allowed to grow it into what they want and get as much extra support as they want. But my long-term vision is to see how can we use certain metrics to help with health and prevention, more prevention as opposed to treatment. So working in the hospitals too, it's very much a treatment model. We wait until you get really sick, and being in the emergency room, we wait until unfortunately, people show up very, very sick, oftentimes, and wouldn't have done anything leading up to getting there to have maybe prevented it so they didn't have to end up in the hospital. And so the thought is, if we can see certain trends with, if you maybe experienced a cardiac arrest, and then what's the right amount of exercise? What's too much? What's too little? What type? How much support do you need? And start to see what we can do to help people prevent getting ill in the first place, or if they have been ill, what can they do to prevent from getting sick again longer? So that's really my hope. But again, there's so much interconnectedness between mental and physical health. We can't separate those and expect to get good results. There's just so many studies I could go on and on about how if you are just trying to focus on one, but not the other, I'm thinking right now, this one's going way back to childhood, but if anybody's ever heard about the wire monkey or the cloth monkey with the babies, so they had these babies and they took them away from their baby monkeys, they took them away from their mother, and then they put them in a cage, one with a wire monkey and one with a cloth monkey. And the ones that had the wire monkey just like literally physically did not do well, even though they had the same food and everything and access to same nutrition. But the cloth monkey, it's that connection, it's that actual making that connection with something that felt to them like a mother. And so again, if we completely isolate ourselves from any type of support and just have this artificial support, which I would say would be the wire monkey, then we're not going to really be able to thrive. We might sort of stay alive like the monkey, but you're going to be malnourished or ill, different things that are representative of that. It's such an innate need that we have, just being human, but also being in the mammal species. There is a need for connection. And I think with the pandemic, people are seeing more and more how much that really is affecting their well-being.
Yeah, you have the great slogan and kind of the motto that you have, enhancing humans, not replacing them. I don't know if that's exactly it, so I apologize, but
yeah, using AI to enhance humans, not to replace them. Yeah, because that's what the model is, right? It's okay. We're either going to use paper and pencil, or we're going to use computers, and there's nothing in between. And that's why I think people have gotten this thought like AI is bad, computers are bad, they're going to take our jobs. And it's like, well, why can't we just use them to help enhance the things that maybe humans are not as great with keeping track of all this data and just, making these correlations between these statistics that you couldn't possibly track without having to manually write them down, which would take all the time that you're supposed to be interacting with your clients. So why can't we use it for that part? But then that doesn't mean we have to just get rid of the human altogether. We could use a bot, but that would erase half of what we're looking for, right? So our technology also works on any mobile device or computer, so you can take it with you wherever you go. But we're not going to then connect you to the bot. We're connecting you to another human trainer, right? So we didn't say like, oh, we could do this, let's just do it. No, we're saying like, what's the best way to do it, and combining the best of the both worlds. So the human aspect and the data.
And like you said, scientifically, it's there. I mean, you have to combine both, because the fitness part is great and the exercise, but if you work out every day, but you don't have good relationships with anybody, and that doesn't even just include your community, but just in general, your overall health is not going to be great, right? And the same on the other side around. If you have a great relationships with people, but you don't do anything to keep your body in check, then again, you're going to have the problem. So I love how it just combines everything, and then there's a lot of innovation going on. It's like, why not utilize tech in a positive manner? It doesn't have to be bad. Like you said, a lot of people kind of get lost in that. I think it doesn't help that any movie about any type of tech ever made is always bad. But yeah, I mean, we can utilize this and make it a really positive and fun experience to enhance us and make us better overall. Jennifer, what types of things have been a struggle for you with the business in terms of that nature? What types of challenges are you seeing with these platforms, with the platform, whether that be externally or internally, pain points amongst consumers, trainers, or internal that you've been facing and are trying to solve at this point?
So I think one thing that's actually very surprising is how much paper and pencil gyms and fitness centers still use. So they still take a lot, 99.9% of them, meaning I haven't found somebody yet who doesn't, still take their assessments down with paper and pencil. And then they kind of get filed in a drawer and, maybe looked at later, maybe not. A lot of people just are kind of like keeping track of things in their head, they say. But so even with the pandemic, and I believe AI fitness was taking out brick and mortar gyms long before the pandemic. But even with the pandemic, there's still some resistance to, it'll go away soon, or with the summer being like, we could just work out outside. But it's not just about the pandemic. It's about convenience and, again, making it accessible for everybody. Just because a mom is also working and she doesn't have a lot of time in between, or because somebody goes on a lot of business trips, doesn't mean that they shouldn't be able to access the same type of fitness and availability. And then again, like trying to make that work-life balance. So if you're adding in the extra drive and the commute to and from the gym during a busy time of year, or during when it's snowing or whatever the weather is, or during a pandemic or flu season, all those extra components just keep people from being able to get into the gym. But there is some mentality in the gym that like, well, we're here so you can get to us if you want it to. And so I think there's still some barriers to that. And it's not with everybody, but I do kind of see that I get presented with some resistance. Just like with any field, I think when new technologies start to come in, there's like, well, we've been doing it this way for this long, so why change now? And then on the other hand, some of the gyms and fitness centers who have started trying to use the technology during the pandemic were unfortunately met with I call 1990s technology, which is, middleware and then streaming services, which have been around for a while. And so they somehow got convinced to pay for things that are very similar to YouTube, don't offer any feedback, don't offer any data. And so they sometimes will immediately assume that we're doing the same thing when we're not doing anything close to that. But so we could get written off in that way. So I think it's learning how to educate people about what we're doing when it's so different. It's difficult to try to find the right words sometimes to articulate how we are different and how we would make it easier for them. When again, there's just a lot of resistance to change, and then kind of like, well, we've been given this snake oil. I'll call some of the products out there. Unfortunately, we're told to do all these things and it didn't. So why would I trust your product now?
Right. Yeah, that's always the business challenges, as well as getting yourself out in front and getting them to see the solution the way you see it and the way your users see it, and all that types of stuff as well. Yeah. So how has the business process been going for you in terms of collecting users, in terms of getting people signed up and things of that nature as well, and talking to trainers and that type of outreach? What type of reactions are you getting via social media and things of that nature?
So when we do the demos, yeah, people get it. It's gotten really good. And I think I've gotten better. I've noticed from like when we were putting things on the website in January to when we update the website, which gets updated about every other week or so, in July, when I was starting to do calls from then to then, I have no idea what you're doing, to people were repeating back an understanding of the product that seemed to have really grown. So we have only been live with the enterprise solution for about 2 weeks. And as anybody in B2B sales knows, the sales process can take months. So we did start the sales process with some companies back as far as May, but those are still ongoing. And then the consumer product has not launched yet, but it'll be launching by the end of Q3. And we have over 600 signups for that so far. Yeah.
600. Very nice. Very nice. Do you see this for your target market in terms of, I guess, the ratio of your market? Do you see a lot of it coming from enterprise and gyms and B2B, or do you see a lot of it coming from the B2C? Or are you seeing kind of a nice mix of the two?
So we have over 80 businesses in the sales pipeline between like the calls 3 and up, like, they've made it past the third call, and over 900 like warm leads in the business. So technically that's more, but that's where we started our focus first. We haven't really thought to go direct to the consumer until we are getting a lot of requests from some of the social media presence, as far as like, well, I'm going to your website, but where's the product for me? And my thought was, well, you can join on once the gyms are on. But then I realized it's kind of like a chicken or egg thing. We could offer all of our peripheral technology to the consumers directly anyway. And then once there are gyms on, they could connect directly to the gyms. So if they have a gym they already go to, we offer this situation where you can we'll pay for your gym membership for a year if you send your gym as a lead to us and we sign them on. Or you can connect to one of the gyms that we already have on. So then that offers extra benefit to the gyms that are signing on, because we have these users that are signing on. And I could tell you that the majority of them do not have a connection to a gym yet. So they are looking for that. So there are features that when you're on the consumer app that would just tell you like if the basically the only feature you can't access is the live classes unless you're connected to someone, but all the other features you can use anyway. So we're kind of letting the consumer piece move on its own. But on social media, that's where there's a lot of people obviously are going to be, we have more consumers that are out there. So they're just finding out about it mostly through me talking about the product or my experience in startups and tech. And so, yeah, again, we figured we might as well capture those leads. We did a little experiment for 24 hours and saw how many hits we were getting on a page for individuals. And then we decided to go ahead and go through with it. So it remains to be seen because we've been pushing the enterprise piece from day one and only started even considering the consumer side at the end of April.
It's all about the data, isn't it? It's data. Yeah. That's what I see right there. Because you have so much directions that you could take it, right? I mean, I think it's a good approach. Kind of see where the consumer takes it, because that's a lot of benefits for the gyms as well. I mean, if you're starting to get a bunch of consumer signups and they're like, wow, and then they're in that area in the gym, then that could easily help you attract those gyms, and that's a fantastic perk. Yeah, pay for a full year of a gym membership for somebody. Oof. If I didn't travel as much as I did, I'd say sign me up. Let me go take that to the gym.
Well, you might even just find so I have a friend who loves CrossFit, right? And he went from one CrossFit to another. I won't name the two cities because the one he moved to, he's like, it's not the same. I want to go back to my old CrossFit. And so he could join through that CrossFit and just do it virtually. And then when he goes back home to visit family or friends, then he could go in, even if it's once a year, he could still do everything from remotely. So that's the thing too. If you do travel a lot, you could find, well, what's your favorite one you've ever vacationed and dropped into, or where's the one in your hometown, or, where's the one you are now that you maybe even go to very rarely. Like, honestly, with my schedule, if I could do a gym like twice a year, that would be like, woohoo, fantastic for me. But yeah, it's again, like knowing that you can grow into it too. Like, okay, well, maybe when my kids that are now 3 and 6, maybe when they're, say like 5 years from now, then maybe I will be going to the gym once a month instead of twice a year. But it's whatever community resonates with you, and then you make it work for you.
Yeah. The consumers and the clients can blow this up globally. You can start getting some international and take over the world. MotivateU. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome, Jennifer. And then in terms of, you mentioned the enterprise just launched a couple weeks ago and still working on the signups and the consumer, and you hope to launch that for Q3 as well. So from a business perspective, in terms of just, staying on track and staying on time and handling your staff, your team, or your freelancers or contractors and things of that nature as well. As a CEO, tell us a little bit about those challenges, how you're managing them, and what things you're learning. I know this isn't the first time you founded a company, so just tell us a little bit about that aspect.
Yeah, so we're remote distributed. We launched during the pandemic, so that's how that worked out. But I also was very open to that idea anyway, because it just allows us to get talent from anywhere. But with that, there has to be a lot of communication with the team. And so anybody who's at least 10 hours a week, I meet with them individually every single week. And then we do monthly team meetings. We do some weekly ones, depending on what, our goals are at that time. I meet with everybody individually at least once a month, regardless of how much they're on the team. But it's really that communication. It's getting a little tough because we're at about 21 people now. We're just shifting with the end of the summer. So some interns coming in and going out. That's why I say about 21 people. But that's a little tough because at this point, most people are directly reporting to me. So hopefully it's starting in the fall as we expand the team more. We'll also add like another layer of some team leads that will hopefully help take some of that pressure off. But pretty much I think that the communication is really good overall. The people who I've offered to come on that have transitioned from part-time to full-time have been people who are really good with understanding the way I communicate. And I'll say that because I'm not going to say I'm an expert communicator. I think I definitely move too fast sometimes, and I assume that everybody can catch up to what's in my head. And so making sure I'm articulating that, that can definitely get lost, I think, when I'm jumping from one department to another. And so the people who have really like kind of been able to just pick up wherever I leave off with the conversation and fill in the gaps and ask me questions and aren't afraid to kind of find out, okay, what did they maybe miss or what was unclear, just do really well. And I think that's part of the nature of a startup, though. It moves really fast and you do have to be independent and able to ask those questions. So I think I've been really lucky that I've sourced most of the people from my network. And so I have tried to do the interview process too. At one point, I had over 90 applicants for a position. I had 93, and it was that part was very draining. Trying to keep up with all the interviews and everything. So that's probably going to be a struggle going into the fall. I've kind of again reached out to my network, try to fill it from there. Because again, having like completely open jobs where you're having tons of applicants come through can then turn into like a full-time hiring position where all I'm doing is interviewing people and going through resumes. But we are also, because we're planning to expand in the fall and the winter, anytime somebody asks me, we have a position, I say yes. Like, we're going to be like, we don't have one right now, but we're coming up to having them. So please send your resume in now to hr@motivateu.net, because we keep them all on file. And that's also helped me with being able to take on people from outside of my network, because then I can go through them more slowly and I know who's available, as opposed to just getting a dump of like 93 applications in a week. So yeah, that's a constant struggle, but that's a struggle for all startups. But I guess it's better than having the struggle of I can't fill the spots because no one wants them. I'll take it.
Right, exactly. There's that, like you said, the chicken and egg perspective of it as well. But Jennifer, yeah, well, how can people help? How can people get signed up if they're interested in being a consumer, if they're a gym owner by chance listening, or how can people kind of help out? Or if they're just like your business and want to see it go, tell us a little bit about ways that people can help, whether that's a simple follow and engagement on social media or, signing up and being a potential consumer.
Yeah, so if you're interested in any way with either applying for a job or being a consumer or enterprise or investing, if you go to the website, MotivateU.net, then you'll see all the sub pages. It also, you can learn about how we are involved with the community. We are members of the 1% Pledge, so we give back 1% of our time, product, and our profits. So you can see some of our engagement and upcoming events on our page as well. If you have no interest in this, but you kind of see that it could be beneficial to others, then yeah, follow us on social media. We have a little presence on everywhere, and probably Twitter is where we have the biggest presence. So yeah, follows are definitely helpful. I think that's kind of like a good thing to think. Like if you kind of like the idea of it again, but you don't want to use it for whatever reason now, or just being able to follow people, I think, and spread the message that way is actually a lot more helpful than I think people realize.
Oh, I agree completely. Even, sometimes a product or something just might not just be for you, right? But sometimes, that happens to me sometimes, but I still think the product is cool. I think there's a market for it. So any type of following and engagement to spread that awareness to people that it will help is really important. So that's fantastic. Jennifer, is there anything else you'd like to add about MotivateU or about yourself or about the process and the application in the community or anything?
I'll just add that we're going to be on Ted Danson's advancement series on CNBC this November. So if you want to learn more about us, you can check that out as well.
Ooh, very cool. Awesome. So there you go. Put it in the calendars for November and put that available to watch. I'm sure you'll be having all that all over the website and social media as well.
Yes. Yeah. Twitter will definitely.
Yeah. Twitter. That's the go-to. You've been killing it on Twitter recently. Yeah. So we'll have all those links for the social media, for the website, and everything available on our Talkin Solutions podcast page for Instagram, Facebook, and more. So, and YouTube. So if you can't find it, be sure to just go to our page and we can definitely point you in the right direction to learn more. Jennifer, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation with me. It's been fantastic to hear about your solution and to hear about all the great ways that you're trying to unite people, keep them positive, keep them motivated, and help them live healthier and happier lives.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Yes, absolutely. That is Jennifer Strout, the CEO and the founder of MotivateU, a community-driven platform that's going to encourage fitness and allow you to, from all levels, to get data-driven results of your exercise as well, from a kind of a hybrid at-home place, but also a gym community as well. So definitely be sure to check that out. You can go to motivateu.net to find out more information about that. And as I mentioned before, all of those links and information and highlights of this platform. We'll have a demo for you. We'll be on our Talkin Solutions podcast page on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and more. So thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Talkin Solutions podcast. Looking forward to the next one. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week.